Hello and welcome to TVS Correspondent, the show where we take a look at what's happening in the US and around the world. I am Radzi Ahmad, and with me is our correspondent for the United States of America, who is now in Washington, D.C., Alfian Zaini. Alfian, it's great to see you again.
Likewise, Radzi, it's pleased to see you again. Hope you have been doing well.
All right. I hope you've been doing well too. Right, let's get into it. Let's start off with some exciting space travel news. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon and the world's richest man, has touched ground safely on Tuesday morning last week after a successful 11-minute mission to space aboard the rocket named New Shepard, designed by his space company, Blue Origin. Can you tell us more about Blue Origin and the preparation for Jeff Bezos' expedition to space?
Sure thing. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos founded Blue Origin with the goal to create a future where millions of people are living and working in space to benefit Earth. New Shepard's launch represents a milestone in its progress towards Bezos' vision. The flight, even though it did not enter orbit, was a milestone for the company that Mr. Bezos started more than 20 years ago, the first time a Blue Origin vehicle carried people to space. Before Tuesday's flight, Blue Origin had launched New Shepard 15 times, all without anyone on board, and the capsule landed safely every time.
All right. Now, how did the launch go, and who else was on board the flight?
The capsule carrying the Blue Origin crew accelerated to more than 3 times the speed of sound before it reached beyond the 80-kilometer boundary of the U.S. Uses to mark the edge of space. The crew capsule reached an altitude of 107 kilometers, and the rocket hit a top speed of 3,500 kilometers per hour during the launch. The crew floated in microgravity for a couple of minutes before the capsule returned and landed under a set of parachutes to end the mission after 10 minutes. As to who was on board, Mr. Bezos brought his younger brother, Mark Bezos, who has lived a more private life. Blue Origin auctioned off one of the seats, which was given to Oliver Damon, an 18-year-old student from the Netherlands. His seat was originally won by an anonymous person who bid $28 million to fly with Bezos, was unable to make the July 20th launch date. The fourth passenger was Mary Wallace Funk, a pilot who, in the 1960s, was among a group of women who passed the same rigorous criteria that NASA used for selecting astronauts.
Well, the launch marked Blue Origin's entrance into the market of private spaceflight, joining Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, its direct competitor in the sector of suborbital tourism, and Elon Musk's SpaceX. How does this launch affect, or should I say, shake things up in the suborbital tourism sector?
The company's only direct competition is Branson's Virgin Galactic. SpaceX is preparing to launch its first private mission in September called Inspiration 4, but Musk's company sends its capsules further into space on multi-day flights in what is known as orbital tourism. Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic have been developing rocket-powered spacecraft, but that is where the similarities end. While Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket launches vertically with Virgin Galactic's Spaceship 2 system is released in the air and returns to Earth in a glide for a runway landing, like an aircraft. And while Blue Origin launches autonomously, Virgin Galactic system is flown by 2 pilots. Branson's company has flown 4 test space flights to date, but does not expect to begin flying paying customers until 2022.
Alfian, I'm curious, how much would a seat on a space rocket actually cost?
Blue Origin's auction may have netted $28 million, but a seat on a suborbital spacecraft is typically much less expensive. Virgin Galactic has historically sold reservations between $200,000 and $250,000 per ticket, and more recently charged the Italian Air Force about $500,000 per ticket for a training spaceflight.
Well, once you say that, it's still very surreal to me that this is now possible, that if you're lucky enough, you can buy a ticket to go to space. I'm sure it's going to be a booming tourism sector in the near future. Alfian.
Oh, yes, but the tourism market is now only an emerging slice of the more than $420 billion space economy. Yet it's high profile, given the much more thrilling human element, which means it has a powerful and widespread influence over the space industry, with investors often pointing to astronaut flights as driving excitement about the broader implications of the extraterrestrial marketplace.
Well, there you go. It's really an interesting time that we live in now that there is the possibility of buying a ticket to space and experiencing all the wonders that God has in store for us up in the heavens. Though we are currently in a time when only billionaires could afford it, therefore creating some moral and ethical dilemmas around whether this could all be potentially a waste of money that could be better spent on improving things down here on Earth. But the future is looking very exciting indeed. We'll be right back after a short commercial break. Stay tuned to TVS Correspondent. And we are back on TVS Correspondent. Well, getting back to the New Shepard launch and heading into the ethical side of things, Jeff Bezos thanked Amazon workers and customers for funding his trip to space during a news conference following his safe return to Earth. Now, in light of the protests from Amazon workers who testified lower wages and inhuman working conditions, how does this obvious inequality reflect in the general public's reaction towards Amazon and Jeff Bezos' spaceflight?
As you can imagine, Mr. Bezos' comment garnered swift critical reactions, including from a member of the House of Representatives who serves on the Tax Writing Ways and Means Committee. Democrat Early Blumenauer said, quote unquote, space travel isn't a tax-free holiday for the wealthy. We pay taxes on plane tickets. Billionaires flying into space producing no scientific value should do the same, and then some. End quote. He also expressed concerns about the environmental effects of such space tourist flights. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez also criticized Bezos by saying that, yes, Amazon workers did pay for this with lower wages, union busting, a frenzied and inhumane workplace, and delivery drivers not having health insurance during a pandemic, unquote. She also added that, quote, Amazon customers are paying for it with Amazon abusing their market power to hurt small businesses, unquote. Democrat Nydia Velasquez said Americans should not forget the reality that he has created here on Earth while he is paying to go to space. But while those congressional Democrats offered criticism, the message from the White House was more welcoming. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said, this is a moment of American exceptionalism.
Well, Jeff Bezos is criticized as having the privilege to escape from Earth. But does Jeff Bezos' space expedition contribute to anything to society? Or would it be safe to say that his adventure was for purely egoistical reasons?
Well, many do dismiss this as just a billionaire's ego trip, but the next step beyond super yachts is just the next step beyond super yachts and private jets. But I believe there's much more going on than ego here. Launches such as these are moving human spaceflight towards a more sustainable phase. That's when spaceflight generates enough revenue to pay for itself. These companies are already earning money in varying degrees and is likely to become profitable in time. Driving down costs is key. SpaceX has already dropped the price of getting a pound to orbit by a factor of 20. Musk promises that his new rocket will drop it again by a factor of better than 10. It takes roughly the same amount of energy to get from New York to London as it does to fly from the Earth to orbit. The reason it's cheaper to fly to London is that we've had a lot more practice. As aircraft manufacturers and airlines competed, the technology got better and more efficient. Competition among space companies will do the same. As Harvard or Smithsonian astrophysicist Martin Elvis noted in his recent book, Asteroids, there's a lot of wealth out there to be gathered. If you've got the technology to gather it, everything from asteroids full of valuable materials to solar energy that's much stronger and easier to gather than it is on Earth. The Chinese are working on this as we are. Again, we just need to improve our ability to get there. Practice and competition are the keys, and Bezos' flight is part of that process. This is definitely much more than just a space super yacht.
Well, there you go. It's really an interesting time that we live in now, that there is the possibility of buying a ticket to space and experiencing all the wonders that God has in store for us up in the heavens. Though we are currently in a time when only billionaires could afford it, therefore creating some moral and ethical dilemmas around whether this could all be potentially a waste of money that could be better spent on improving things down here on Earth. But the future is looking very exciting indeed. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Alfian, as always, thank you for your time and insight.
Thank you, Radzi, and take care, everyone, especially viewers.
All right. Stay tuned to TVS Correspondent next week for more updates on the United States. Stay safe and bye bye.